Right.
I've been really good. I haven't done this once. Yeah.
There's a cost.
I haven't very much.
No power. You lost power?
Reminds me, I gotta turn my
Hey,
ringer off. I had mine turned up.
Really good.
oh, okay. I'm just about to kick off my city council meeting, so I'll call you.
Oh, yeah.
7 o'clock.
You're looking at like, red.
Sarah on it. It's how it's gonna be at around 7 o'clock.
Hello, Mr. McLeod.
Oh, sure.
He's a warehouse like now, so he works for
You can do one. All right, everybody ready?
3 days a week. Really weird, 4 days a week. But like, he makes like 50 hours.
Yeah, let them know. They're all right here. They
Get a
can,
night off, so he
yeah, let them know that they're just, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's funny because they're merchant, it's like, oh, the stamps are here on my desk so that I can hand them out to everyone.
I got one.
Did you get one?
Oh, thank you. You the best? That's okay.
I gave you one.
I went through this and
Oh, boy.
35,000 feet, but you know.
Yeah, he's,
Exactly.
Yeah, I would, yeah. Well, that's always hard. And then there would be the thing of what it really is.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Who takes you to a quarterhouse on field trip?
Okay, well, good evening. We will call to order the Shenandoah City Council meeting for Wednesday, January 29th at 7 p.m. Call the roll and notice that everybody is here. Appreciate all of y'all showing up as well. We're going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you'd like to stay standing with me, I'll say a quick invocation for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Lord, we come before you tonight and just want to say thank you as always. Thank you for today. Thank you for this group of people who care so much about the city we all live in. Thank you for the neighbors, the friends and family that we have that give their time, talent, and treasures to make sure that we all live in a safe environment, and an environment that we can raise our families and that we can work and worship. Please bless us tonight as we make our way through this agenda. Put your hand of guidance on us and help us make the right decisions. We pray these things in your Son's name, and all God's people said, Amen. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Appreciate everybody showing up. Item 5 is Citizens Forum, and I don't believe I had anybody sign up to speak. Y'all know me. There's a second Citizens Forum, and if you want to talk, I don't even make you sign up, so feel free. We'll move from item 5 into item 6, which is council inquiries. Anybody have anything they want to bring up right now? No? Okay. Then from there, we will move into item 7, which is the presentation regarding the Senior Rides Program. This is a presentation only. I believe we have somebody here from the program.
From Meals on Wheels, Montgomery County.
Awesome. Come.
They're just handing out the old school. Yeah.
We're gonna put you front and center.
It's great. I also hate PowerPoints. This is good. I gotta bear with me then.
You're not alone.
Okay. Oh, I like this cut. Okay. Okay.
Would you mind stating your name for the record?
Yeah, so I am Katie Foster. I work for Meals on Wheels, Montgomery County. I was going to give you a little background anyways. I started about a year and a half ago as their grant person. I was doing all their grants. And within a few months, they asked me to come on in a director role and to not only do all the grants, but to take on transportation and our congregate departments. We run 3 departments: congregate, transportation, and our home delivered meals. They just wanted someone who is going to really take control of transportation and make it more fiscally responsible as going forward, because it's becoming one of our largest departments. So I just wanted to kind of educate everyone, because a lot of people know home delivered meals, but a lot of people don't know about transportation. And it's huge for Montgomery County. So at Meals on Wheels, Montgomery County, we have the privilege of serving seniors and the disabled in many ways. And if you'll notice on there, I say seniors and disabled. It has become apparent over the years that transportation is a vital service for the seniors and disabled. As of today, we're the only transportation service that goes in all parts of Montgomery County. You have Conroe Connection, you have the Woodlands trolley service, you have Brazos, but they do not hit the rural areas like we do. Their needs range from medical and dialysis, which is huge. Actually, most people in Shenandoah are dialysis, so they depend on us for that. Grocery store runs, going to the local senior activity center, which is our congregate, or church, or to running much needed errands. And our goal is to help as many seniors as possible. We will never turn someone away who needs transportation. With funding though, we may just limit how many rides we can give them. So we currently have 336 clients. We serve 29 different zip codes in Montgomery County. We have transportation in all of the cities located up there. So I just wanted to kind of give you a breakdown of how Senior Rides works, because I don't think a lot of people know. We have a transportation coordinator. People call in, and they either ask for transportation on the bus program, or we have a taxi voucher program, which is through our 5310 grant. We use City of Conroe for that and TxDOT for our rural and urban areas. So if we are not able to get them on the bus, we immediately sign them up for a taxi voucher. And we do have to do that with quite a few of our rural clients, but we also have to do it with dialysis, who have to go sit in a chair for 8 hours and don't get out until 5 p.m. And our transportation bus program shuts down at 3 p.m. So we want to make sure they are taken care of. We can get them there, but we might not be able to get them home. So our drivers start at 7 a.m. every morning, and we have 6 different routes. And the participants are taken all over the place. We do have to limit social rides. That's a decision that I had to make this year, just because to be fiscally responsible going forward, I want our department to grow. But with that, for a short time, you do have to make some regulations and policies and put those in place so that you can grow financially to be able to help more people and then implement social rides in the future. And that's what we hope to do. So for fiscal year 2017-18, I kind of wanted to show you just the percentage of, because this is important. We want our medical to grow, and as you can see, it's already grown 4%. That is where we are putting most of our focus. That's huge to us. I mean, those dialysis clients, those medical, they need us desperately. And like I said, Shenandoah, I think at least 2 of your clients are mainly just dialysis needs. And I mean, that's 3 times a week for them, and that's hard. And so you can just kind of see the percentage rate growing. Congregate, and you'll see a difference in that, and that's because we took away social rides, but some of those things, aspects that we looked at as social, were actually like going to the Woodlands Center, the Congregate Center. We don't look at that as social, we look at that as congregate. And so we took that away, and going to the Conroe Center. While that's not a congregate center we run, that's very important to us that those people get there, because it does give them a meal, even if we are not the ones providing for them. Our congregate centers are in Magnolia, New Caney, and the Woodlands. So I kind of wanted to show you the amount of trips, not to scare you out of funding, but to scare you into hopefully seeing the need. 158 is what we did in the fiscal year 2016-17. We were only able to provide 66 in the fiscal year 2017 and 2018. And we hope to raise those numbers. Because we didn't get any funding, I did have to back down on a lot of trips. And I'm happy to send more information to you after this if you would like it, to show how the Woodlands Township trips had to go down, the City of Conroe trips had to go down. It is not focused on Shenandoah or focused solely on any of these. It is something we had to do to stay within budget.
When you say you didn't get the funding, what do you mean by that?
Well, I don't think last year we got funds from Shenandoah. I could be wrong. I've been in this a year. So that's why I wanted to preface everything with that, because after a year, I can not like say, oh, I haven't been here. But after that, I can't make that mistake. So I don't believe. So that's one reason I did not reach out to y'all earlier, because I was learning about, reaching out to the small cities in the way that we do. And I apologize for that. But we can double check that for
I
sure.
know that we had budgeted
That's what I was
for
gonna say, I
it.
know we budgeted.
I know
did you
Kathy
actually-
reached out to me this year, which I'm so appreciative, because I was not aware that I should reach out in the way that I should have to y'all. So the fact that she reached out to me is a huge reason that we are looking to add so many more trips, this year.
And during budget, council had requested a presentation.
Information.
Our understanding when I contacted y'all was that there was some staff turnovers, and although we had the funds in the budget for a few years, we never had any contact from the
Right.
program, so nothing ever happened with
Right.
the funds. But
Once a year, we'd get asked for money. That was. the
yeah, that
entirety
was
of
as
the
far as it
contract.
went. So in
And we kinda
digging,
went,
And I'd
okay.
like it to go further than that. I don't want it to be a once a year ask. I want it to be a relationship, because that's
Right.
important. And I've learned that this year. I work very closely with the Woodlands Township. I work closely with Jim Kirkendall and Kike. And Oak Ridge North. It's hard not to say it that way when you think of the Woodlands. And the City of Conroe with Sean Johnson. These are relationships that are important to me. I don't know my predecessor if they were important or if they took note of that. But right now, transparency is the only way we're going to be able to move forward with a good budget and helping as many people as possible. So, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, so you said that we had 2 Shenandoah clients that were 3 trips per week. They obviously weren't utilizing this transportation service for all of those trips if we only had 66
Right.
last year and even only 158 the year before that. Do you know how many total clients we have that are utilizing the services?
Right now, it only
Unique
looks.
clients, do y'all track it by unique clients or?
We have unique and unduplicated.
Okay.
And so from my understanding, looking at our reports, and I went back 4 years, it looks like right now, we're only at 6 trips right now this year. So it looks like we only have 2 to 6 clients in Shenandoah. And the way to change that, obviously, is, I've talked to Jim about this extensively with Oak Ridge, and we wanted to put something in the publication there so that we could reach out to more people that maybe aren't aware that they have the opportunity to use us. In the same with Shenandoah, we want to make sure that we put it out there. And if not that, then the taxi voucher program.
So when you say taxi voucher, is this, explain how that works. Is
Okay,
that,
sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. So if we are not able to get to them, we work through a third party, Harris County Rides. And so basically, they keep track of everything for us. But, and I would love to give you a printout of the 5310 grant. It's a very fun grant to go over with people. But the rural is taken care of by TxDOT. We receive funds from them. The urban is taken care of through City of Conroe. And the Goodman Corporation is their third-party admin. And they take care of the urban side. And we have a certain allotment. So we have 120,000, but due to admin fees, we have about 100,000 for rural. And then we have about 55,000 for urban. And basically, it's kind of like fake money that's in the sky, and Harris County has it in their computer system. It's a reimbursement system. So when someone needs a ride with that, we sign them up. We make sure they have sent in all their paperwork so that we're okay with compliance. And then we send all the information to Harris County. They load a card for us. The person calls the taxi service, and we basically tell them, this is your debit card. You need to keep up with how much money is on there, and we do give more for dialysis clients because we make that a priority. And so basically, they call the taxi service comes, scans their card, and they're taken care of.
so when you say taxi, are you like legit taxi with the Uber?
Legit, yellow cab.
Yellow cab,
So there's two questions sort of here.
Yeah.
And we looked at the Uber Lyft type services.
I haven't done a whole report on it, and I'd be happy to send that to you if you'd like it. I just was doing it on my own, actually, and then Woodlands Township asked me the same question, and so I was able to say, here's my report. It's just not fiscally responsible. So the prices are cheaper, but you have to understand the clientele you're dealing with first off. They are older, seniors who, cannot download an app on their phone and then cannot make the rides that way. It is asking a lot. I make sure to go out with my employees once a month to do in-home visits, and because I want to know my people that I'm dealing with, and they just can't, they don't have the capacity to do that. And that would be the big thing. And the second thing is just that it's unreliable. First, Uber and Lyft are not restricted by certain rates, so they can have peak times and they can raise their prices. And they're unreliable in the fact that they have peak times. Yellow Cab works 24 hours a day, you call them. Uber and Lyft, you have no idea if you're gonna have the reliability of someone being in your area and able to take care of you, and you cannot make an ahead of time appointment. So for our clientele, it is not a realistic option at this time. But I'm hoping in the future, I have recently read an article about Boise, Idaho, and the city itself is paying for a certain rate, $2, for an Uber to come and take their citizens within a certain radius. And I told the Woodlands Township I'd be very happy to coordinate with you and look into that, because it honestly is about helping the client. It's not about, the need is huge.
And then your clients, are they at all need-based, or are they just, how do you determine?
Income-based or anything like that?
Income-based or need?
It's not income-based. Basically, if they use us, most likely they need this financially. We do not charge for anything. We're not a complete nonprofit in that we do not charge. We have no fee for service, and we never will. The need is just too great, and we're ADA compliant, we're curb to curb, and we realize that's not out there. So we want to be able to help as many people as possible, because they can't get to Conroe Connection where you have to pay the $2 to ride, and that's great, but they can't get there. They need someone to come pick them up. And so we look at the need, not the possibility for quote unquote profit. So you're not making.
I wasn't asking for that. I was just saying, are we serving clients who legitimately have no
Yes.
other options?
Yes.
Okay.
And I keep track of everything, because I want to be able, if anyone were to ask me and report back extensively, after the fact, like how many of our medium income clients, how many are low income?
Right.
How many are wheelchair bound? How many have used an ambulance in the past year? Because, that's a huge fee right there. And how are we, lowering the fee for the county? So, things like that. So, sorry, I got a little off.
No. that's
But
all good.
no, I kind of already discussed all this, so you're fine. And then, so the forecast, the only thing that's troubling to us is that, like I said, we do have clients that have ridden decades with us, actually, and they need us several times a week. The thing is, we've had to cut back, and so some clients, we will never turn anyone away, but someone who had to ride twice a week may only be able to ride once every 2 weeks or something. And so that is more troubling for us if they have doctor's needs. Not so much if they have grocery, but that's still troubling, because we're their only way to get to the grocery store. And so I think that is about it. It's just a thank you. Without the support of all the different small cities, TxDOT, CDBG, we would not be where we are. So we are very, very grateful.
Would you consider expanding to more special needs people?
We do
Is that
disabled.
that's something on your horizon, or?
Well, so in terms of that, are you just mean disabled in general? Or, yeah, we do help the disabled. We have to do, so for certain grants, like Houston Galveston Area Council, it can't be, it has to be over 65 and that's it. So it is for senior clientele. But that's why we allot funds from the different cities Woodlands Township, City of Conroe, Shenandoah, so that if we do have disabled clients, that we are able to immediately meet their need, and it's not based under a grant. But we do have quite a few
Yeah,
clients.
I'm thinking even like young adults that they just can't drive,
Yeah.
you know, and.
We do get a lot of calls. Can you take me to work? We're like, we can't.
Well,
We're
I
sorry.
mean, like, okay, like my son has special needs.
Mhm.
So, you know, in a world where I'm not here, would he be able to get a ride through the
Yes.
service? Okay.
Yes, we have. I'm trying to think of his age. I think it is 28, and he is special needs, and he also has brain cancer. So he has to go constantly. Obviously, I mean, it's a fatal disease, but he does still have to go to the hospital. And I mean, we take care of him each week. So we're very lucky that we get to do that.
Do you have any cities that you're set up on to somehow or another notify the city if you're not able to give one of their residents a ride? Do you have anything like that?
Well, no.
Let's
because-
say we have a resident that is going for a dialysis treatment.
Mhm.
They're looking for a ride. Y'all can't give them one because of the budgetary constraints or whatever. Do you notify anybody?
Well, I would say that rarely happens. I mean, I cannot dote on my transportation team enough. They're amazing. They know how to work the schedule or call someone who's going grocery shopping and say, look, I have an immediate need for a dialysis patient. I mean, they're geniuses. I don't know what I would do without them.
I mean,
And
just
they very rarely have to do that. And if they do, we find another like interfaith, we'll call interfaith or something, because they do a taxi volunteer service. Or we'll look into Brazos Transit or something. But I am telling you that rarely has to happen. I have not had a situation yet where one of my transportation team members have had to come to me and say, I don't know how to help this person. Like, it doesn't happen because, like I said, we don't turn anyone away. We figure it out. I mean, if they have to change their chair time, we're like, can you? And they try to. I mean, it's except the ones on Saturday, but those immediate taxi, like we 911 the taxi service for them. So.
How do you determine the proportionate share that you ask from each city?
I go in, and it's for me, it's cost per trip, or operation cost, and that's what I determine it by, how many trips you've had in the past, and I kind of average it out and look at our possibility for the new fiscal year. So I'm not going to, like, I look at your 166, I look at your 60, like, I'm hoping if.
But did we get pared down to 66 because of the amount of money that we were paying? I think is where Byron's going with that. I mean,
And it may be also, like, we can break down our budget for you in a more closed.
Yeah, I mean,
And I can show you how, a lot of times, we move clients to, say, HGAC Urban. And we'll move them to that if we're not getting the funding from a certain city, but we know the need is there. So that could very well be the case for some, but for the most part, a lot of that took place before I got here, and it won't take place after. I
think I know what concerned me when I see that graph is I hope that we didn't get 100 residents turned away or 100
No.
trips turned away because we weren't paying enough money in.
No, it could be as simple as people moved. It could be as simple as we moved them to another grant to make sure they were taken care of because they were 65 and older and we knew HGAC
So
could take care of
these
them.
trips are not, they're not geographic. When you say Shenandoah trips, I mean, I'm wanting to know, within our city limits, you picked somebody up, you took them somewhere, you brought them back.
Right.
This graph isn't talking about that.
So Shenandoah, we can put them within HGAC, UZA, because that's the whole urban area of Montgomery
Sure.
County. Or we could put them Woodlands Township.
What's this, the bar graph you had up there?
Yeah, do you want me to go back?
People who live in Shenandoah, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
this is what I'm trying to get
It
a
is
clarification
people who
on.
live in Shenandoah. And
Regardless of where the funding came from, there was only 66 trips made.
Yes.
No,
So,
but
well-
you may move them to a different organization.
That's what I'm
Would it be
trying to-
captured in the 66.
Yes.
I see what you're saying. So you say,
So geographically, if they were
Somebody
in
may-
another, yes. Does that make sense if they were in another?
So if somebody called and
branch?
you said, well, we can't serve you, but somebody else can.
Right, so when I look it up in our CTS system, I'm looking it up by the accounts, like our budget accounts.
That's what I'm asking. That's what it
Yes.
sounded like you were saying.
Yes, and that's
Is there a way to look it
important.
up
But when I look up
geographically?
riders, I make
Okay.
sure to look them up as to who is geographically living in Shenandoah.
Do you have a list of who contacted you for rides?
It's probably a HIPAA violation.
Well, that's not a healthcare provider, so.
It is, they're going to.
No, I mean,
You see what I'm saying? So.
I would have to look into that if I, honestly,
But
I
if you-
would,
If
that's
you have
not
a thing
a, Mm-hmm.
where somebody calls from Shenandoah and says, I need a ride, and you said, okay, I'm sure that's all documented somewhere, so you go, well, we don't have a ride for you, can you call this other agency? Or maybe you forward the phone to them, whatever. Now they're over there, but the initial contact was made for you, so do we determine how initial contacts were made?
yeah, I can honestly say that we don't keep like a recorded document of if someone calls from Shenandoah and is turned away,
Okay.
more likely because I can talk to my transportation team and I'd be very happy to. I can imagine they're gonna say that has not happened.
Okay.
I honestly.
I
can-
understand.
I mean,
worked with
I
many.
very honestly can say that that probably did not happen, especially, Shenandoah being smaller and we are able to take care of the clients like they need to be taken care of. I mean, most likely the people that call are not, Bob, who's 23 and
Right.
needed to get to his job and didn't have any of the qualifications to ride. If they have the qualifications, they're on.
So it does seem interesting that we've got a difference in ridership of the 2 years of 100 riders, whether they found some alternate means or some other agency now is taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean we have a smaller need? And that's something to think about is if we've got other agencies that are covering this 100 gap, that's less than half the riders.
Right, and I'll be honest with you about my meeting with Jim. I told him, this is how much our need is. I'm not gonna ask you for any more, I never would, but even though you're giving me this amount, I wanna take the ridership up to this. So, I mean, that's important to us. It's just knowing, and all of you know this, it's a delicate balance of you have to show the need is there before you can ask. And Oak Ridge hasn't been doted on like it should, basically, and there's a huge need there. And so I want it to, and the same with Shenandoah, like it hasn't been doted on, but we have to put it out there that we are available because most people just don't know. And I think once that happens, and I can come back here and be like, guys, thank you so much. The need has risen to this, and that's what I'm hoping to have to do. But it just takes getting there.
Okay. Thank you.
You may not know off the top of your head, but I would assume the cost per trip in Shenandoah is probably pretty low.
It's the same all over. It's $26.81, down from $31.80 last year. I'm happy to report. So yeah, this year it is going to be $26.81. Now, a lot of people compare that to something like Interfaith, but they're volunteer-based. Our drivers are paid. Our buses are, we have to pay for gas. We have to pay for maintenance, preventative maintenance, and we have to pay for just degradation of our buses over time. So, I mean, that's what goes into our operational costs, obviously. So it may seem high, but then an ambulance ride is $300. So I feel really good about our $26.81 compared to that for the county.
Two things that I would be interested in the future would be a data point on the number of trips with destinations in Shenandoah instead of originations, because we do have a lot of hospitals. I'd find that
Yeah, I'd be
interesting.
happy to get that for you. I can easily look that up in our CTS system. I know a lot of people usually they'll go from here to Conroe Regional or St. Luke's. We have a lot, most go to St. Luke's. So that's probably where your medical is going to originate, the drop-off's going to be.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to look at that for you.
And then, if in the future you thought a direct marketing plan for Shenandoah seniors was something that we could help fund, I think that we'd be interested in talking about that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Jim and I talked about that too, about just putting something in the publication, the Oak Ridge North. It's as simple as that, just saying, hey, we're here, this is what we do, how can we help you, call this number, It really is something, and we, we did some strategic planning this year. And so we've changed our development team around. And so we now have a community outreach manager and her assistant. And I think that that's something that I want to get together with them to do that publication. And I'd be happy to correspond with you about that as well, because I think it's important. And that's what we're really trying to do with transportation this year, is we've realized it's just not out there, that we even have it. So.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Please keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you and Kathy for getting this rebooted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn, sometimes I'm just gonna give it back.
Yeah, Chris will take care of it.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's move into item 8, which is discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, so as to approve an extension of special use permit for a mixed beverage late hours permit for Dave & Buster's, as stated in your agenda packet.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Beavers, I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have any discussion? Well, just for the record then, so everybody will know, this was already approved once before, and just, I'm assuming due to construction delays, the SUP was going to expire, so basically this is just a renewal. It's an extension.
That's correct.
Is it, and can they, why am I thinking they can only extend once? Is that?
Well, I was just gonna bring that up. I
Yeah.
would object to a third, because there's something wrong. I mean, if they knew they weren't gonna build the building, why did they apply back in February of 18 to get an SUP that's only good for a year, if they knew they weren't gonna be?
I think the wetlands permit was delayed longer than.
They were delayed and they weren't able to establish use in time.
So I don't have it, I don't object to granting this extension, but if they came back again, I more than likely would
Are they really ready to begin?
Yeah, I would object to Dave & Buster's not being here. but-
Yeah, I was going to say.
True,
I have no
Byron,
objection.
true. I mean, that's the
And it's
spirit.
correct, you're planning to open in February next year?
Next year,
Yeah,
Yeah,
2020.
2020.
extension till 2020.
Right.
Please do, come on.
I think this is what he's talking about.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jill Valkovic with Dave & Buster's.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I forgot the question. Y'all want to know when we're going to open?
Yes.
Yeah. We're looking at the December, January of next year. So I believe the landlord's construction folks are here, but the wetlands permit was what delayed us. We plan to be under construction shortly.
Good.
Cool.
The parking garage is up, right, or going up, or?
I believe so.
Jackie, does the,
So, right, it's just not the Dave & Buster's itself, the main building.
Correct, right. I believe the pad is down.
How are you, sir? I'm Shane Williams with the Salmon Group. No, sir, the garage is not up yet.
Okay, I didn't know.
We are started on it. The pad's about 3 foot from being at pad level, ready to go vertical. And we should be going vertical probably mid to late February of this year.
And they're
with the
precast,
completion
so
of
that'll go fast.
October.
you know.
Sir?
They're precast for the most part, so
Yes, sir.
that'll go fast.
Yes, sir. And those panels are already cast, and they're in Austin, actually. So once we're able to start going vertical, it should go fairly quickly.
And it takes us, once they deliver the site to us, it'll take us at least 6 months to build out.
So if we extended a year to February, you're gonna be right there on the borderline again,
We're
right?
hopeful that we will open in time.
So I think,
Bill, is there a reason to pass it tonight?
Well, because what if
Well,
they
because it expires in February.
expire.
If it expires,
They can't
there is
renew it.
a,
What
Then
is it?
have to
Once
go
it
through the
expires-
whole process again.
Right.
Right.
once it- right.
and there is some sort of time period that they have to, was it TABC, or I don't remember. It's been too long stuff.
At least you're letting us all talk.
Yeah, might as well, come on.
Yeah, come on up, got one more.
Just be sure and tell us your name.
Marcus Schwartz, Foley Guardian, alcohol counsel for Dave & Buster's.
Oh, there.
Actually, with TBC, we have an active permit, we don't have an active permit yet. We would apply for it. TBC, though, once the permit is issued, it's pretty much good to go. They'll do a subsequent inspection once we actually open to make sure we
So then are you confident you'll have the permit from TABC?
Yes,
Prior to
we're
the-
waiting so
prior
that
to
we
the-
don't wait a year and pay a year's worth of permit without the need,
Well,
but
it's-
I think that's why we're all here right now, but yeah, that's the
But
goal.
you understand where we're coming from as well?
Yes,
It's
and
not-
I,
I can assure you by February of next year, there will be a substantial investment in the property.
Exactly.
Any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Call for the vote.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Beavers, we have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Unless we have any more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. We will move to item 9, which is discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, so as to approve the extension of a special use permit for 5.1923 acres for Eastwood Village, as stated in your agenda packet.
Council, this is another SUP extension request. It's to extend it until August of this year, August the 14th. P&Z did recommend extension until that time, although Commissioner Westbrook did say that he would not be in favor of another extension. They have not been able to establish use previously, but they feel comfortable that this will get them there. We do have some representatives here tonight, if you'd like to have them come up.
Absolutely.
Please.
So Bill, my understanding is, once you've broken ground, you've established that you're doing something, we're good to go, right?
The answer is, the short answer to that is yes. The longer answer is, if you go out there with a shovel and dig a hole, no.
No.
I mean, but if it's genuine, yes. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Zane Siegel.
and I'm Kevin Curtin.
So, yeah,
We represent the ownership and development on the project.
so we've been here before, and here we are again, and we're kind of asking the same question, when we did the original, the original re-up, a year or so ago.
In February.
We were told we're ready to rock and roll, we'll hit the ground, we'll be there May, we'll get going, and.
We had every intention of doing so, and if somebody in this room had clued us in where we could get the financing at that moment, we would have started, so.
Well, to be fair, Zane, you told us you had the
Used-
financing
Yeah.
at that time.
To be fair, you don't have the financing till all the documents are signed. And we have had several investment bankers who have made us promises. Now we actually have documents that are signed, but it takes a little time to go from this point to go through the building permit stage, which is a moneymaker for the city, significant fee for us that we've paid once before. And then we'll get started probably within about 90 days from today. We're asking for 6 months because there are things that can happen to slow us down. We don't know exactly how long the building permits will take. We've been told it's a quick process. We hope that's true. We're making only minor modifications to the existing plans that were permitted, and we bought those permits. So we were, very serious about going forward. And, we're at this point now where we're asking for a little forbearance, but the fact is, we feel like we're ready to go. We've been negotiating very hard with all the lenders to get all the documents ready. And if we didn't think so, we would just fold our tents.
All I'll add to that is that where we are now versus where we were previously, and I apologize, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but we have a GMP with a contractor that's ready to build this thing for us. We have accepted term sheets from the lenders, and we have the equity in place, so we have the capital stack lined up. This is a big deal. It's a great project. We fully believe in it, and we're very committed, and we spent a lot of money pursuing this project.
We thought we would have it underway, or at least be able to close and start moving some dirt by the 15th of February. We've now realized that our attorneys are working hard to get everything done, but we're not going to get there in time for that. It won't take us till August, and we'll know within 2 months whether we've got all the documentation done and can proceed, and we will. We will proceed on that basis if you guys grant us this extra time to get it going. But we're fully committed. We've spent a lot of money. You can't go out there and see it on the ground, but we've got a set of plans. We've got a contractor that has priced this thing. We did run into a little bit of a problem back in late spring. Lumber prices spiked incredibly high and have now come back, thank goodness. But that was a challenge for a while that we've managed to work through. We made some decisions and some design changes to allow us to get better pricing and to avoid the use of certain types of lumber and that kind of thing. I mean, without getting too down in the weeds on that. And that has allowed us to get to the GMP and put us in a position to move forward. And I'm sorry that we're not already underway or that we're not closing within the next 2 weeks, but we're very close.
Without getting down into the weeds, what were the minor changes that
That's my question.
We had a design with a cantilevered, I don't know what you call it, wing or
A roof projection.
that was, the architect draws it and the structural engineer looks at it and they say, okay, well, we'll get shop drawings to do this, and it just wasn't cost effective. If I showed you what we're going to build now versus what was there before, you wouldn't even know the difference. We just figured out a way to do it. It doesn't project out quite as far. It's frankly just a better design, so we've improved the design.
And this was the value engineering you were talking about at the P&Z meeting?
Yes.
I don't even like it. Value
Is there
engineering
anything
term
else associated with value engineering that I should know about?
No.
Anything else about value engineering that I should know about in
No,
the context of this
you
project?
have to understand, we are building this product to a certain market that is exactly the same we were projecting to build it to from the very beginning. So it's an upscale product, and it's not quite as expensive as what they're building inside the Woodlands that are 8 stories tall. That's a much more expensive building. Their rentals will be much higher. We're seeking a consumer that is either someone who's an empty nester or more likely a millennial that is going to lower the average age in your city a little bit, and that are people that work in this area who can get to their jobs very quickly because this is a very accessible location as well as a visible location. And we're not doing anything to cheapen the building because that would hurt our ability to rent the units.
Yeah, because that's what my ears hear when it hears value.
But let me correct that thought, because this happens in every single project that has ever been built in this city or anywhere. But the architects lay out what they think is a dream vision, and the developers say, yeah, it looks good. Then they go to the contractor, and the contractor says, you're making some mistakes here. We can save you money by doing this and this and this, that are not things that are going to destroy the product, but make it financially feasible to be built and rented at a price that people can afford. So I promise you, this building that we're standing in had value engineering. If we had the contractor here right now who built it, they'd tell you what value engineering suggestions they made. It's just part of the overall process. It's not like we're trying to hide anything.
Point taken.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying, though, and I agree with you. That term just thrown out without any explanation sounds like, oh, we're going to, cut back on the finishes.
It's going to have cardboard on the outside now.
The reality is, first of all, code doesn't allow you to build something that's not structurally sound and properly built. And 2, you've got to deliver a product that's competitive, or else you're not going to do well.
And adding one more element to it, the building codes here and the requirements that you have for apartments in this particular city are much more stringent than in other places. The parking requirements require considerably more parking, probably $1 million worth of garage that we would not have to build in the city of Houston for the exact same number of units. We're also building retail that we're required to build here, that is not required in the city of Houston anywhere. And we're doing it where we're creating surface parking right in front of the retail that meets your code. And so that takes a fair amount of land to do that, but it's going to make the retail successful, whereas in many places, when they have retail on the ground floor, multifamily, it languishes. Here, we're going to have excellent visibility on the freeway feeder and parking in front of everybody's door. So, you know, we have every anticipation that you're actually going to get the sales tax revenue. That's the purpose behind that.
So what's your confidence factor now of being able to move forward on time in a timely fashion?
Close to 100%. I mean, that's how I feel about it. We're standing here because we're at the edge of the cup. And for us to be told, oh, you can't drink at this point, yeah, it's going to be very painful for us. But I can promise you, it isn't going to be good for this city either. You know, somebody else is going to come in here and want to do something that probably is not going to be as nice a project. And, well, I'm saying that because I've seen what some other developers do. And we've put thousands of man hours and woman hours into designing this and getting it bid and getting it improved and engineered, not just value engineered, but engineered.
Okay.
Thousands of hours.
We're just saying we want to make an end, right?
I mean, we've built a lot of projects. I'm 100% confident we'll get this one started.
Therefore, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Brought to approve. I have a second by Councilman Raymaker. Do we have any discussion?
How dependent are getting retail tenants, your economics, how dependent are those on retail tenants?
You know, if we had any dependency on that at all, we wouldn't be able to get financed because the financial institutions don't really like mixed use. And Zane made a really good point about how we've designed this mixed use because we've seen it and we've been involved in deals where they've had it. And a lot of times on a typical mixed use project, you see a 4 or 5 story building, apartments above floor retail that's right out on the curb, even in an urban environment, and it's dark a lot of the time because it's especially in the Southwest, in Houston, where you get in your car to drive across the street, you've got to have a parking place right in front of the retail center. We have that. Our ground floor of this project is a traditional retail strip center, like everything you see up and down 45 between here and Dallas and Houston. Just acknowledging the fact that that's the way it is. Now, if we were in DC or Chicago or New York, we might be able to get away with what I'm talking about, but most of the retail you see in mixed use right now is underutilized because it's hard to get into it. We have partners on a deal in Fort Worth and they're doing away with some of the ground floor retail on a mixed use project that they're under construction on, and they're going to put some loft apartment units there because the code allows them to do that because they're not having the success with the retail. I'm very comfortable with the retail that we have it designed.
The other answer to that is that we're putting in 15,000 feet of retail in a 315,000 foot project. So it's about 5% of the square footage.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, if I understand correctly, your lenders would be satisfied if the retail was occupied at 0%.
They've underwritten it that way.
However, Shenandoah would be very dissatisfied with that.
Right.
And to hear of an example of another project converting retail space to apartments or lofts, I find concerning.
Yeah.
Because once it's built, obviously there's very little leverage for us to say it has to remain retail. Y'all are gonna have
there are
leverage to come back to us and say, if we, you know, you can have this vacant space that's a eyesore and, you know, public nuisance, or you can convert it to, you know, residential and make it better.
Right. Well, and so I that's a very good point too. And the other factor that I think it will serve all the retail in that area well is all of the limited service hotels that are right around it. I mean, we share the site with a limited service hotel. Part of the reason we have a driveway in the middle is to access that hotel. The retail we anticipate, and we've already had, you know, inquiries about it, is the type of retail that will serve that population around there. Coffee shop, restaurant, primarily, and then, you know, some ancillary retail in there. But we're, like I said, we're very confident that retail is going to do well.
Yeah, well, you have 3 hotels that are immediately surrounding us, and there's, you know, plans for a 4th one. I don't know how soon that's going to happen, but 3 hotels, 500 to 600 rooms between them. One of them has a restaurant, but they don't have any other services. So we envision that. And the second thing is that we've got a freeway frontage location. We're the only apartment project that I can name that actually fronts the freeway between downtown Houston and downtown Dallas. Now, there probably are some, but you get my point, that they don't have that visibility. And all the retail along that strip, all those restaurants that are there now, seem to be doing pretty well. I mean, when I drive by, which is frequently, those restaurants are pretty full. So we know that this is a retail location, at least food and beverage wise, and that's going to be the main impetus to what we're doing. We think there's a market for that. Not everybody can have a freestanding building because those are very expensive to build and operate. Anyway, this particular space is going to be too tall for doing any kind of residential. The areas where that's happening are cities that frankly have realized they've made some onerous requirements on the developers. Austin is an example that's had some vacancies because they had a very strict program that every single multifamily building that was built after a certain date has to have retail on the ground floor. And that's been a problem there. Here we understand this is a small percentage and we appreciate that. It's not that it's the driver of the project. We realize how important it is to the city, and that's why you have that ordinance. But it's also a good amenity for our tenants. It's not like it's a bad thing for them. It's going to be great to be able to go downstairs, have a cup of coffee, have lunch, have dinner. Of course, we're going to have all the facilities in-house for you know, having conference rooms and having gym and yoga rooms and pools and barbecues and all that. So it isn't something that you have to do as an apartment developer. You have enough amenities in your own project, but it's still an advantage for the tenants. A dry cleaner, nail salon perhaps, you know, whatever.
No mattress stores.
Yeah, no mattress stores.
I certainly don't want to speak for the rest of council, but I think it's an exciting project. I think as a whole, we're excited to come into Shenandoah. If you sense any trepidation, you know, we've had some projects that either one took a long time to get off the ground, longer than what we would like, and tied up, you know, very valuable land, or just flat out stalled in the middle of construction, which became an eyesore for our residents. Quite frankly, in some cases, a hazard, and then obviously, you know, sort of a financial pit.
We had that behind us. The Home 2 Suites was.
Yeah.
I don't know the inner workings of what happened, but we were worried about it, to be honest. I mean, they actually stalled and had a half-empty building.
They love to still stall.
We'll never take a shovel out there, and it won't be a shovel, it'll be a bulldozer, unless the entire project is 100% financed. With completion guarantees, we would be, you know, at serious risk of financial ruin to do that. Unless it was completely financed 100% with legitimate institutional capital. There's no other way to do a project of this scale.
One would think.
I don't know any other way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time. Do we have any more questions or discussion?
No, make it happen.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Welcome to Shenandoah
Appreciate your
again.
time.
Yes, sir. Okay, we will move to item 10, which is simply the announcement of a proclamation for Arbor Day. So I will be signing a proclamation for Arbor Day for the city of Shenandoah. National Arbor Day is April 26th. Our event will be on March 2nd. And I think this is a good thing for the city. We've been doing this for a number of years, and qualifies us to be in as a Tree City USA.
That's correct.
That's right.
And I think it speaks to the culture of Shenandoah. So mark that on your calendars, March 2nd. Okay, item 12 is discussion and possible action regarding the Tamina median closure.
Community room.
Community room,
Did I
Mayor.
miss, oh, I did miss the community room. Item 11, discussion regarding a community room.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as a discussion item, I'd like to kind of go through some of the thoughts that staff is having based on the council's request to look into a space for a community room. Several items to go through, so if at any time you have a question, please interrupt, ask if you need clarification. I'll go over a quick history before diving into the details here. So currently, there's a space in City Hall used as sort of a community room. The garden club, the sewing club are our two most regular users of the space, and it's actually a conference room that's attached to and directly behind the police department. And there's been some, sometimes the noise is disruptive to staff. There's even been times where a staffer's door was blocked by tables covered in food, and they were unable to get into their office. Or they were in their office and couldn't get out of their office because they opened the door and there's a table in front of them.
They had food.
Yeah, they had food.
That's true, they did have food. So it caused some disruptions to have them in that space. For that reason, and at council's request, staff began looking for other ideas. When Landology vacated the space in the back of City Hall, we began looking at that area as a potential location for a community room. We think keeping it in City Hall is going to keep the cost down. You won't have to build or lease a space outside of City Hall, which could be pretty costly. So we went out and reached out to several contractors, several vendors, to begin gathering pricing. What would it cost to convert the space that Landology was in into a community room? The space is about 1,000 square feet, just shy of 1,000 square feet, so it's a pretty large space. And I'm going to go over some of the costs. I won't hit every number, but I will give you a total here at the end, and this is also all in the agenda report. The first and largest is going to be electrical. As you know, that area used to be a call center for 911, and as such, it has a lot of electrical outlets. A typical wall in a building like this will have 2 outlets. That has about 1 every 2 feet. And that was all tied to the UPS backup system that was in the server room where they had other equipment. Well, 911 is out of that area, obviously, and if you may recall, that UPS actually kind of failed on us. It didn't catch fire, but it smoked and scared us, and we had to pull out the batteries and everything. And we had talked at the budget workshop of actually getting that removed rather than just leaving it in that space. And council budgeted $10,000 to cover that. Well, we figured if we were going to be doing some work in that space anywhere, it might be worthwhile to combine the 2 projects. You'll get some cost savings. So the electrical portion, which includes removing the UPS, as well as all of the additional extra outlets which won't be needed, which is going to take a lot of sheetrock work to make it look pretty again. That came out to just over $11,000. So that was a good price. Some of the other considerations: the room needs new flooring, the carpet's torn up. So I was looking at putting in a tavertine which matches the rest of City Hall in there. It'll be easier to clean, lasts a little bit longer. New paint for the room. Also, to help control access if it were used as a community room, adding some keypad access to the double doors, so if someone could, when someone used the space, they could get into the back but not into the main City Hall portion. Just keep an eye there, and also to add some
Is there parking
cameras.
back there? Is there any parking at all?
So
Near that
immediately at the back door, there's room for about 3 spots, but then there is parking there in front of the Public Works building, which could be utilized.
Okay.
One of those spaces, because if we were to turn it into community room, it would need to become ADA compliant. So there's some costs for making that exterior door a push button open for wheelchair access, and some other considerations for ADA compliance, which would include a handicap parking space up close so it's easier to get in. One of the other, to open up that whole space, if you're familiar with that room, it's got an office built into it, into that 1,000 square feet. Staff would propose that we take those walls out to make it one larger open space, and even to open the wall halfway between the kitchen, because there is a kitchen back there, between the kitchen and the main space, just to add additional serving space if somewhere to have treats. And, you know, when the garden club comes, they always have a lot of food. And then this would also include tables, chairs specific for that room. They would stay in that room for use by whoever needed to use that space. And then there's some other reworking alarms, fire alarms, sprinklers, and things like that to make that whole space work once you take out those walls. So in the end, that total cost, and this includes the electrical portion, comes out to just shy of $50,000. It's $49,729.87. Using that $10,000 that's already budgeted brings it down to just under $40,000. Do you have any questions about cost, staff's thoughts for turning that into a public space?
I saw some costs in there for a lot of cabling. Is there any way we can do wireless in there for any, like the security doors and things like that, or can that be done wirelessly?
So that's quote was through DataVox, which handles all of our security and door system. I don't know exactly. I don't know if you had that conversation with them, Chris.
The security system, no, that's all hardwired. There's not a wireless. It's got to tie into the existing system. It's the door card, the badge entry, door controllers, the lock mechanisms that go in the door. It's all hardwired.
Okay. Do we have a scissors lift?
We don't.
Because it says we need to get one or provide one.
I have to rent about $500 for
What?
3 days.
I was just wondering why they didn't include that in their quote. If you need a scissors lift, you should.
Through the DataVox?
Yeah.
We've got ladders.
But it says in here that there's a scissors lift and that we're paying for it.
I imagine they're going to use that for any of the work they do up in the ceiling, just so they can pop tiles, run wires.
Yeah.
I just never heard of the customer procuring it. Procure your own and bill me.
So one thought on so you're talking about doing the hard tile or travertine floors, understanding a noise level, how much increase in noise would that be? And I understand it's a room in the back, so that's kind of a point. But for certain functions, would commercial carpet with the idea that you're going to replace it every few years, how long's that? I mean, this commercial carpet's been here for I don't know how long. Maybe that would be a way to reduce the cost, even understanding that as time goes on, it would need to be replaced, and also keep the noise in the room down.
Right. That's a fine option. The staff looked at the tile just for durability, but yeah, commercial carpet with the closed weave is quite durable as well. So it's definitely a price I could reach out and get.
Has this been discussed with the garden and sewing clubs?
I have not discussed it with them. We're just, at this point, we're gathering data, information to get council's thoughts and input.
I'd be very interested to hear their feedback, probably as well as the civic clubs.
We've never been discussed with them at all. So, the garden club, I have no idea.
We can get that feedback.
And how big is this space compared to the existing room?
So the room is going to be bigger than the room they use. Now, the garden club does branch out into the hallway and lobby area, so when they do that, it's a larger space for them. But room to room, the proposed space is much larger. I can't remember the exact square footage of the conference room they're currently using, but it might be 2/3 the size of what this new room will be.
Okay.
Joseph, do you think we could expand the use of this area during Lighting of the Angels and Arbor Day and anything else we do down here?
Yeah,
Beneficially?
it'd be definitely easier access, you know, for the events that are held there in front of the Public Works building using the bays. So it is definitely a possibility, just because of its proximity.
In general, I don't think I would not count this as a successful project if it's only used by the garden and sewing clubs.
Right.
But if we're able to open it up to the broader community and have greater use, then I think it would be worthwhile. We won't know that for sure before we have to decide to pull the trigger, but.
That's our intention, I think.
Right, and that's one of the reasons that I'd want to hear feedback from the current users. And the Civic Club may represent the broader community. Would they use it for a family reunion or
Well,
an event?
yeah, that's why I asked the question I asked, because that would be on the event side of the Civic Club. As far as our meeting, the little executive conference room works great.
And you know, to bounce off that idea Councilman brought, it may be worth, you know, I have a second portion to go over, which can probably cover some of those access questions. I just wanted to go over costs first, and then.
Okay, sorry.
Because obviously the second part of this is, you know, what would be the logistics, what would be the process of the use. So staff came up with several ideas, 7 of them here, that I'll go through, and any that council wants to add, modify, you know, again, please let us know. So first is covering rules of use. So there's some obvious: clean up the space after use, empty the refrigerator, place all trash in the trash can, no smoking, no vaping, no alcohol, no activities that will damage the facility, no amplified sound, and no use during emergency situations. So specifically, if the EOC is in use, if you had a reservation, it's canceled, you get your deposit back, because the EOC is right across the room from this area. And a lot of these ideas, rules were taken from, you know, rules that we have at the park for consistency, and you'll see that throughout. Times of use is going to be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to match park use hours.
Now that's park use hours. We're not talking about reservation hours, right?
Those are the park reservation hours.
Those are the reservations. So you can reserve the park pavilion starting at 8 p.m.?
Yes. Okay. So park opens at 6, closes at 10. You can't reserve within those first 2 hours or the last 2 hours.
Okay.
And that was just to keep it consistent. And that can also be for weekends, and I'll get into that. Because of that, you know, the access point, if somebody wanted to have a birthday party in the community room, they could reserve that space for Saturday. And on Friday, they come to the front office, they collect their key card, which only opens that exterior door. Saturday, it lets them in to only that space, and they can use it, and then exit and return the key card on Monday. So it opens it. Currently, they couldn't do that because they had to come right through the middle of City Hall and into a room adjoining the police department, which, you know, we don't want to do on a weekend when nobody's here. Reservations, we can use the online reservation calendar that we currently have for the park, or they can come in and schedule at the front office. Again, to match the parks, you know, trying to match what we already have, reservations can be made for 2-hour blocks. Now this may be a topic for discussion. Registrants can reserve back-to-back. However, deposit is required for each block reserved. This came about because we've seen with the park, you know, the park currently disallows back-to-back reservations. So what people do is they talk to their neighbor, and their neighbor comes in and gets it reserved for 4 hours for one person. And they get it worked out. So this will allow reservations back to back. Reservations cannot be made more than 12 months in advance.
Is there a limit on how many back-to-back? When you say back-to-back, 2 2-hour blocks at 4 hours total, or we're just?
I would think 2 2-hour blocks.
Yeah, or let them reserve the
4
whole
hours
day,
total,
yeah.
Yeah. We could cap it at 4 hours, or if they wanted to pay, several $100s for the whole day.
Well, and that brings up another point. So
Maybe
you're
they have
talking
a full
about
day event that they want to use it for.
Could be. You're talking about a deposit, though, that would be refundable if the room is returned.
Correct.
So one of the things we do at the park is we actually charge a reservation fee. And I think it would make sense to do the same thing here, because regardless of how good the users are, there's going to be trash that needs to be emptied, and the floor needs to be clean, and wear and tear over time. And my thought would be, it's a $25 kind of event fee that would just roll into helping offset those cleaning expenses, as opposed to the deposit, which is like if there's a big hole in the wall, you don't get that back. But if you kind of walk in there and everything looks fine, you get your deposit back. Is that what I understand? That's how the deposit works?
I hadn't gotten to that yet. That's
Okay.
not how it was written, but
Okay.
not says. So let me move on to the next, and we can come back to this. So the deposit's $100, which matches our current deposit rate for the pool multi-use room. But that's refunded 100%.
Yeah.
So I'd say if we do want to change it, which it's not a bad idea, because we are going to have to clean it. If you do want to keep a certain amount, as I say, a cleaning fee, I'd say if we do it for the community room, we should probably make that consistent across with the pool multi-use room as well, just to keep them the same.
The pool room, how big is that one? How many square feet?
It's a large closet.
350, it's not very big.
I think it's that big.
I didn't know if the deposit was comparable in terms of size.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably
It was set
15
up as a
foot by
deterrent, so-
8 foot. It's not
Maybe
it's
10,
not real
yeah.
big. You can get about 4 or 5 tables up in there, and then you're walking sideways.
It's a little birthday party and that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, basically a place to serve cake if you're having a party at the pool is.
I've been in it, I just don't remember the square footage for it, so I was like, I just was curious.
Right.
10 or 12, about 15, so.
So I don't know. I'm kind of hearing from a few, maybe a $25 cleaning fee that you keep. $25 is what we have for the park reservation.
Yeah, that was my thought.
For residents.
And that, at the park, it goes back into beautification because we're trying to keep the park up, and there's not a whole lot of cleaning I suppose people can be crazy and destroy stuff, but the reality is.
Any kind of staff involvement while this is occupied?
What's that?
Staff involvement while
Right.
this is occupied. Has anybody thought about that, or?
Yeah, so that's the last one. Yeah, the fortune teller. So the process. So the community room is going to be separated from the rest of City Hall by mag-locked doors. So, the key card, we can create a key card that will only open that exterior door to get them into the community room, which means staff isn't going to have to come up here on a weekend to let anybody in. Staff's not going to have to bring tables or chairs into the room because they will stay in the room. We tried to put this together in an effort to minimize extra staff time to help set up, take down these events. So as I said before, if somebody wants to use it on the weekend, they can. They just need to pick up the key card during regular business hours and return it during regular business hours to receive their deposit. Everything was done to try to minimize any extra work for staff, and I think we've been able to accomplish that.
In the current situation, there's much more impact on staff.
Right.
That's what I was trying to avoid, or at least.
So it's been a while since I've been back to that area. What kitchen equipment is back there, or do we need to purchase?
So there's a refrigerator, full-size refrigerator, and then there's a small electric stove top with 2 burners on it and a sink. And they also have their own ADA compliant bathroom. in that space. Now, outside of that room, there's the hallway that connects to the EOC, which will remain locked. There's also a small little wet bar out there that could be used. It's just a sink. And then there's an additional ADA compliant bathroom out in that hallway. So they'd have 2 bathrooms that they'd have access to. And I remember this. So when I talked with the building inspectors, we were looking at this. If we make it a public space, we'll need to put an occupancy load limit, and because there's only one point of ingress and egress, that limit would need to be 50 persons, which is actually about what the calculations, I think the calculations when you use people per square foot for the use, it came out to 53, so it was close to 50 anyway. But we keep it at 50 or less, and we're okay as far as fire code.
So in our buildings here, if the fire alarm goes off and there's a fire, do all the mag locks open?
I was going to look into that, and I haven't gotten an answer back from Data Box on that one.
Our personal buildings, because we have mag locks as well, and as soon as that fire alarm goes, it's required that those doors open.
Right, and that came up during our discussions because those double doors that will have mag locks, it does have an exit over time. And so we did have that discussion, but I haven't gotten an answer on that one yet.
Because that would give 2 forms of egress at that point. I guess my other question would be, if we're going to make it a community room, why not just open that whole wall, open that whole area up, and just keep the EOC by itself, and then that way you have
The EOC within that room.
Correct.
Yeah.
That way you still have 2 bathrooms that you have access to, but it gives more space, and you're just basically getting rid of the hallway.
So you'd add, what, 10 foot by, how long's that hallway? The
It's
hallway's
8 foot
about
wide.
It's a 10 foot wide hallway.
8 foot, I believe.
It's 8 foot wide hallway?
I believe so.
Okay, so you'd add 8 foot by, so you'd add 80 feet?
And you'd add 8 foot by 25 foot.
Okay, 25 foot long, okay.
I mean, you're going to have, you're going to have 2 kind of cubes in your big room because you're going to have the second bathroom, and then you still need a wall for your kitchen, for your refrigerator to back up to. So you'll have a little island in your big room.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know where the kitchen is located in that room, so.
Yeah, so the
When
bathroom.
does it have to stay where it is? I mean.
The bathroom goes up against the westernmost exterior wall, and the kitchen is just on the opposite side of the bathroom.
Might be a good idea next time this comes up as we dig deeper into it, maybe bring a floor plan.
Bring a diagram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we can put up and everybody can try their hand at architecture.
There you go.
I was trying to avoid that.
Yeah, sure you were.
Then I'll have
I think it's a great
different
idea.
opinions.
What would be the cost associated with, I know there's a bunch of stuff in the EOC, and we've got, the armored panels and all this other stuff. So the room that they're using now, is a totally interior room, is that correct? The garden club that they're using.
Oh, yes.
That's totally interior.
Yes.
What's involved in moving EOC operations to the room that would be adjacent to the police department? I mean.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Right.
Just because of all the setup we have in there would have to be moved completely. I don't know exactly, but it's not going to be cheap.
Throw it out there, yeah. And then you have that you can have that entire space, but yeah.
I think it's a great idea, heading in the right direction. I think we really need to look at usage overall, as to what it can be used for.
I know years ago we'd have the Super Bowl parties that we'd have in this space, not in that space, but in other space. Is that something that you would envision this room being used for?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask for clarification, Councilman Fletcher. Would council want to limit certain uses? In addition to there's obviously going to be rules of what you can and can't do that went over, but would you want to limit uses? Do you not want people in there crashing for a big Super Bowl party?
Gonna be one without alcohol.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as it's not alcohol in there.
I'm not even sure about that. If we're gonna spend $40,000, we need to make it available to our residents. If they wanna have a small wedding party and have some drinks, I mean, I think that the real question is, do we wanna spend 40,000, not what every roll's gonna be at this point?
Well, so I want to bring up, so we had a person renting that space for quite a while. How much was Landology paying a month? $1,200 a month? What?
1,800.
$1,800 a month? And they were there for how many years? 2.5 years?
Yeah, maybe 3 years.
So they've sort of written a check for this room. I mean, I don't know, I didn't do the punchy on that, but so I tell my kids about the calculators. But, you
So
know.
it seems like there's general consensus, a positive consensus on moving forward, but I think we need to get more feedback from what we think the demand will be. I'd like to see a sketch of the area, and I also think this would be a really great MDD project. So,
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I was about to say, you even got council
talked
scratching
about
your head
that
on
at the
that one.
MDD meeting?
No, I forgot this was on the council agenda, but it fits squarely within the.
We're gonna have a town hall coming up in the spring, and I think this is a great opportunity to get some feedback at a town hall
Yeah.
from some residents, what they would use it for, what their appetite is. Are we wasting $40,000, or are we not spending enough money? They may say, hey, blow it out, let's spend some money on this thing and
Put some speakers in
throw
there.
some
put
TVs
some-
in there, and yeah.
Well, it's
let's
got a
do this
projector, right?
A couple foosball tables.
No, it
I mean,
does not
I
currently
just-
have a
I think we need
I
to
mean,
get, I
but
think we need to get some
It's
feedback.
budgeted
That's
for,
built into
the
it.
projector's planned.
All right, so we'll get some feedback and address this in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we can
I would agree with that.
move on.
And it'll be a sketch, you know. There's
Yeah.
no funding for this, so it'll be hand-drawn by staff.
Give me the,
I look forward to it.
give me the
Joseph,
measurement, give me the measurements, I'll make it.
in the future.
I've got a tool for it. Send me all the measurements.
Okay, let's move on to item 12, which is discussion and possible action regarding Tamina median closure.
Yeah, so this is regarding, this is one of the projects that came about and was further studied with the transportation corridor study that was completed last year. You know, council has expressed a desire to move forward with some of these low-hanging fruit projects. The conflict with this project is that it's small, which, you know, with discussions with Blyle Engineering, small projects, it's really hard to get an accurate estimate of cost, just because you don't know what the contractor is going to put in there, because you know, a lot of the fees that they'd pay for a larger project, they still have to pay those fees for a smaller project, and they're not getting as much bang for their buck. And this is one of those topics that's, this closure has been discussed several times. And so staff went ahead and during this process, we reached out to Lone Star Pavement, which is a company that has done the city striping work for several years now, because they also do roadway projects, smaller projects. They're not going after large textile projects, and so we felt this might be right up their alley and maybe get a better quote from them than you would from a much larger contractor. And they provided that quote at $33,472 and some change. And this is going to be above the engineer opinion of cost, which is just shy of $25,000. So a potential way to save on this, but it would also cause a delay to the project, is to try to combine this with another or two other smaller projects and make them into one larger project, and you may get some economies of scale and end up getting a better price overall. But with trying to balance council's desire for speed on some of these projects, and you know, combining with other projects is going to delay the speed at which we could get this completed. So staff wanted to bring this before council for discussion and council opinion.
I think we need to see this and the resolution declaring a public necessity to close it.
Yeah,
On the same agenda.
that should have been included. But, yeah. I'm a, you know, based on my comments at the last meeting, I think everybody knows my position on this after seeing that and after spending winter break kind of a lot of time in the Home Depot parking lot and watching even in a time outside of, you know, sort of a downtime traffic area. This is a project that we could get done, knocked out. Obviously, you know, the weather's got to cooperate and things like that. I know it's a little more than engineering thought. There's going to be a little bit of, you know, yeah, if we do it as part of a larger project, but really only going to get the concrete discount if we're pouring all at the same time. We've still got to deal with traffic. We've still got to deal with a lot of other stuff. I'm not sure we're going to save even all that $6,000. In my feeling is this is a project that we could get done you would see a dramatic impact. There are some things that I think we need to take note of, and I'm not sure, Joseph's probably the question is, one of the problems is the U-turn that happens there. Is that U-turn going to get pushed down to Dave Memorial? Then we need to put a no U-turn at that light. So that was a concern. You know, one of the problems we have, how we end up blocking 3 to 4 lanes of traffic, is somebody decides to make a U-turn at that.
Right.
And so obviously this would stop that, but with that desire to they just push it down the road and do that in the intersection.
There currently is a no U-turn.
Yeah,
I've written many tickets
Right.
to people who violated that.
So this is an action item. If somebody wants to call for a motion, you're well within the.
I make a motion to approve this project.
We have a motion by Councilman McLeod to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Councilman Raymaker. Sounds like we're going to have some discussion.
We can't move this project forward under agreement with Home Depot until
We
pass it.
can't actually move the project forward.
We
We can say it's funded.
We can
and
approve it to fund it, we just can't actually move it
We
forward.
can't actually.
Yeah.
The
until we
resolution was tabled, so
Right,
we'll
so
bring
we
it
would have to
back.
pass the resolution.
Pass the resolution.
But the project could be, you know, you
But we
could
could
start
approve
getting in
the project,
contact
right.
with companies. I mean, it's going to take scheduling and
Right, and
all
this,
that kind of stuff.
you know, the original plan is this is an MDD-funded project. I don't believe it's come before MDD for reimbursement. I'd have to look back.
I think it's a small
Feel
enough
like
project
it
for the city, and it's worthwhile doing. I mean, it's nice if MDD wants to pay for it. It's a small enough project that it would be of such a benefit to the city that would be worth spending this amount of money.
I was curious what we might save with the economies of scale of waiting.
I don't have a number to put on it.
A good swag, maybe.
Yeah, that's always the hope, and you know sometimes it turns around and bites you because you know the price of steel goes up between now and then, and you end up not saving anything, and you may actually pay more. It's really hard to. You're betting on a good percentage, but it's not 100%.
I mean, I like the idea of showing our citizens that we're going to do something now for them rather than another kick down the road. So.
My guess is we're, a year away from doing that right lane work at the corner. And that's a major project involving, and I don't see any other sort of small projects that we're doing between now and then.
So, but with that being said, is this a Band-Aid, or is this going to be
No,
permanent?
this is going to be permanent. You have to do this. When we open up the right lane, it's going to help even more, but this is going to help immediately.
So we're not going to put this.
No, this isn't going away.
$24,000 in
No,
and
it's-
then
what's
tear
30?
it back up to fix it?
No.
when we open up
This is here, the right lane's up at the intersection. But the right lane's going to require such logistics that even if it was approved today by MDD to write the check, we've still got, I mean, if it was approved tonight, you'd be,
It's far down the road.
6-9 months down the road. I don't see any other of our projects that are small enough that would be added to this. And really, the only thing I could see is concrete, and only if we were pouring at the same time. I mean, that's my understanding of how the concrete works, is, you know, the amount of trucks you have on that day at that time. I mean, we may get some savings. It may just be this company says, sort of small project, this is, you know, you're going to pay an increase in mobilization. There's a little bit of overhead that, it's still a small, this piece that they're doing is still a small piece. Even if it was written into the contract as part of something else.
Right.
I just don't see we're gonna get a whole lot of improvement on this cost, even if it were rolled into a large project. And what that would do is give us a long delay.
Yeah, I like the let's just get it done.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
But that is gonna wait until.
We can't do anything until we get the resolution next agenda.
Yeah, so we gotta do the resolution. Item 13, discussion and possible action regarding the Shenandoah Park Ed English sewer line and water project.
Council.
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Brought. I have a second by Councilman Beavers. Do we have any discussion?
Did MDD approve this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Unanimously.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Thank you, MD.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 14, discussion and possible action regarding the Savannah water line replacement.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Beavers. I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have any discussion?
Same question.
Yes.
Yes. Any more discussion?
I like the advanced planning.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 15, discussion and possible action regarding the Wellman and Cedarwood intersection.
I move we don't do anything.
Is that a table?
No.
You have a motion to deny.
And so I move we make no changes to the intersection.
Councilman Beavers has a motion to not make any changes to the intersection. Do I have a second?
I'll second so we can talk.
I have a second by Councilman McLeod so we can talk. Let's talk. Listen, I love the idea of if we put a bigger stop sign, everybody will stop, but I said it at the last meeting, I'll say it again. I just don't think it's gonna make everybody stop. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna get just a bunch of visual clutter from either a bigger stop sign or a lighted stop sign. I'm not sure that I'm 100% bought in on the actual study. I don't know that just because you were going less than 15 miles an hour or means that you stopped.
Well, and the fact that you can see those black lines across, I watched several people kind of, because you see the
Yeah.
black lines across the road, so they actually reduce their speed.
But you know, it's even if you know, it's the old rule, if you don't like that number, cut it in half. I mean, we're still talking about like 1% of the people might have rolled through the stop sign. You might have had, you know, one person a day actually just flat out blew it. I don't know that, I just don't know that putting a bigger sign or putting a lighted sign would have stopped that one person. I think that one person's probably just a jerk and doesn't care, and you could light it all you want, they're gonna roll through it anyway. That's just my opinion.
What's the age of, how often do signs need to be replaced? Like 10 years?
Yeah, once they start showing wear and start to lose reflectivity.
So in our climate with our sunlight, how long do signs last like that?
Yeah, maybe 20 years. We replaced all these signs.
Not too long ago.
5 years ago.
It's when
4
we
years
did all
ago.
the street signs, right?
Right.
Okay.
They were pretty faded then, and they got put in in the 70s, so they lasted.
Okay.
A long time, but they were very
bad,
faded.
Yeah. Do they have the reflective striping? You know what I'm talking about, the real reflective edges? There's some signs that have some.
If we're not gonna
On
change
the
them, does it
stop
really
sign?
matter?
Yeah, it's all type 3
Yeah,
reflectivity.
okay. My thought was, as they wear, we just make a note that when it comes time to replace them, upsize them at that time, but don't spend any money today. But if we're talking, this could all of us will be gone.
Let's call it a vote.
I'll let my son do it.
Except for Joseph, he'll be here.
I'll second that.
All in favor to not do anything?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nah.
Motion carries 3-2 to not do anything,
To make no changes, thank you.
to make no changes. Item 16, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, providing for the holding of a general election to be held on May 4th, 2019, for the proposed of electing 3 city council members. 3 city council members.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Raymaker to
Second.
approve. We have a second by Councilman Brought. Sorry, he raised his
No.
hand. Oh, okay, second by Councilman McLeod. Do we have any discussion?
This is the standard procedure every year we have to go through.
I'm looking forward to that particular ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 17, discussion and possible action to approve agreements for the May 5th, 2018 election and authorize the mayor to sign. We'll just do these one at a time. Election Services Agreement with Montgomery County, Texas.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Broad, a second by Councilman McLeod to approve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And also possible action to approve the agreement with the joint election agreement with Montgomery County, Texas.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Broad with a second by Councilman McLeod. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 18, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, imposing an impact fee for certain utility connections adjacent to Shenandoah Park Drive and David Memorial Drive in the City of Shenandoah, Texas.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Broad. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman McLeod. Do we have any discussion?
Gotta be able to talk, so.
Yeah, Bill, could you give us some
Sure.
background here?
Yes. What happened here is this deals with the water and sewer lines that are running to Tim Crawford's project. He is paying to run the line from Shenandoah Park Drive around to his project. An impact ordinance means that there's a approximately 3-acre tract that is undeveloped on
next to
the
the
north
apartment.
side of Shenandoah Park Drive. If that person or entity ever built, they would reimburse Tim Crawford their share of that water sewer line. And the city has a small tract of land. If the city ever elected to sell or develop that property for non-municipal purposes, the city also would reimburse Mr. Crawford for the portion that the city, that section, which whoever bought would connect up to the water and sewer line. So impact ordinances are fairly common, which, allow someone to go ahead and build a longer line and then eventually get repaid.
I think it's a good business practice, and this is a good line.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Item 19, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Shenandoah amending Section 66, placing restrictions on the issuance of building permits to individuals and organizations who are delinquent in their financial obligations to the city.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Rainmaker to approve. I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have any discussion?
Bill, is this type of ordinance in place at other cities?
Not that I know of. I don't know, yes or no.
And you're comfortable that we have the grounds to establish this ordinance?
Oh, I'm comfortable that we have the grounds to establish this ordinance.
Can you give me a brief summary of what this ordinance
Yes.
does?
Mhm. What this ordinance provides is that if you have someone who has a commitment to the city for hotel occupancy tax, and that would be both a reporting commitment, which is by state law to the city, and the payment of hotel occupancy tax. A slight background on that is that the city does not have the information to know how much hotel occupancy tax is owed until the owner of the hotel reports how many people occupied rooms. The thought process, and I think it was Councilman Fletcher who discussed with me the possibility of this, is that if we have entities or individuals who own hotels who are continually delinquent in their obligations to the city, both either reporting the number of occupants and are delinquent in paying hotel occupancy taxes, or we have hotels which, being commercial establishments, are behind in their water and sewer payments, which can be substantial for a hotel, that it would be unwise for the city then to issue further building permits to these people or entities who are unable to meet their reporting and financial commitments, that it may be irresponsible on the part of the city to allow them to build another, let's just say, hotel, for lack of anything better.
But it doesn't make sense to have somebody who owes you money, you sit there and keep extending them more credit. I mean, that's where we're at.
Correct. And this is incentive, hopefully additional incentive besides the law of the state of Texas to incentivize people to go ahead and report their occupancy and pay the taxes.
So this would put a hold, a 6-month hold if somebody misses a payment?
Correct.
So if this person had one hotel now and building another hotel, that we've got everything, and they're delinquent in their sales taxes on a hotel that's up and running, we're going to penalize the hotel that's not being built?
That's correct. We would not issue a building permit until they showed.
Until they paid
their
delinquent.
You can't be behind on your house payment and go back to the same bank and ask them if you can borrow money to go buy a car.
To buy another house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, we're not asking to borrow money.
Well, but basically, they are borrowing money if they're using water from us and they're not paying for it. Or they're using city services and not paying their taxes.
Well, remember also that a hot tax is collected by the hotel on behalf of the city. So those funds should be escrowed, so those funds technically belong to the city. So
As soon as they were taken.
So when you don't report it and you don't pay it, then you basically have taken the money away from the city. So the intent behind it is to prevent those that would want to build additional hotels that aren't participating appropriately in reporting their hotel occupancy tax to the city and making those payments timely. Whether it's 6 months or 90 days or whatever, I think the intent behind it is just simply to send the message that, look, you know, if you want to continue to build in the city or participate in the city, then you
Pay your bills.
You need to do your reporting accordingly. I mean, that's what the CVB is here for. So you want to utilize the CVB, but you don't want to participate in reporting? That doesn't make sense.
It just feels like we had the opportunity to send that message during the special use permit. And now creating another ordinance to I don't know.
I don't think it's the right vehicle, but that's just my opinion. I understand what you're talking about.
I mean, we could be in a position where somebody misses a payment, let's say 6 months from their special use permit deadline, or 5 months and 20 days. They miss that payment. Maybe it was the water bill, or maybe it was, you know, the hot tax of a couple $1,000. And now they've got, you know, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars into this project that now the special use permit is going to expire during that 6-month blackout period for them. And they can't move forward. I mean, I don't like it the way it's written.
What would clean it up?
One way would be
Back-to-back delinquencies, or?
If you have any delinquency, you're ineligible. If you clear it, then you're good. No matter what, it's not gonna, we're trying to address a specific problem with a broad ordinance. And we had an opportunity to address that specific problem. People can, you know, behave well for 6 months or 90 days or 12 months. But once they have that next building permit, they're gonna revert to their previous behavior. I just don't think this solves anything in the short term. Definitely not in the long term.
No, but wouldn't you agree it at least sends a message?
Conflicting message after we approve the special use permit.
I agree with that.
Well, I'm
I
concerned.
think we could, that's what I'm saying, I just don't think this is the right vehicle.
I'm
all for the
concerned,
message.
I'm concerned because we all know what we're talking about. That special use permit was granted, and now we've got 2 Jacobson hotels in the city. Someone just lost their flag again, and I'm concerned.
Yeah, we don't need 3. We gotta do something to get the bills paid.
Thank you, that's where I was about to go.
And
You gotta come
while,
up with
while I'm
something.
not a fan of this, I agree, it's a broad stroke. At this point, it's what we have. It's a tool we have in our arsenal, and it's time to bring it out.
I think doing nothing is not an option, just sitting back and accepting
And
what we're
hoping it's
getting
gonna
so far,
magically get
yeah.
better.
We've been presented with one option, so I think there's probably other ways to deal with it, but maybe not.
No, I'm good with more options.
I don't like this one.
So
Call for a vote.
you'll be coming back to council next meeting with an option?
Unlikely.
I think the main option, I think the main idea isn't necessarily targeting one entity. It's targeting all
targeting all of them.
entities that would not report or not pay. And there's more than one that's not paying and not reporting on
Right.
time.
There's some that are constantly
There's-
delayed.
there's
They stay
others
caught
that are
up, but
doing the same.
They're constantly delayed.
And it's not just hotels. I mean, it's any developer that will come into the
I'm
city.
pretty sure it's just hotels.
It's just hotels on this ordinance, but you're right.
Is it just hotels in this ordinance, Bill?
This ordinance is just
What about
hotels.
hot taxes is what it's.
I would probably like to see it as a broader stroke. And I think you and I talked about that, that it wasn't just on the hotel occupancy tax, but a broader stroke across the board that any entity that's behind in their obligations to the city, why would we give them, why would we extend more building permits or whatever to them?
If you want to broaden it to take care of bad faith, what appears to be bad faith.
I'm okay with passing this one tonight and personally, but we may need to look at coming with a broader, you gotta be paid up on your bills before we're gonna issue you new building permits. Whether you're a business, you're a hotel, you're another entity. I mean, think about a hotel that wants to remodel. They're coming to us and they said, hey, we're gonna remodel. That's building permits, right?
Are we gonna do, if a resident misses a water bill and then later wants to come and get a building permit to expand their house within that 6 months, are we gonna black them out?
The discussion that Councilman Fletcher and I had about a broader ordinance would have only applied to certain zones in the city and would not have applied to residential zoning. And we discussed the possibility of an ordinance that if an organization, person, whatever, in what I'm going to say our commercial zones was delinquent in water, ad valorem taxes, if applicable, hotel occupancy taxes, sales tax if you were delinquent, mixed beverage tax if you were delinquent, that the city would not issue a building permit. This particular ordinance is more directed right now at hotel occupancy taxes, where at least for the moment, we have more difficulty right now, from the city standpoint, or from the city attorney's standpoint, is our only recourse when someone does not report hotel occupancy tax or does not pay the tax is to file a lawsuit. Well, that's an expensive proposition. It's time consuming, it takes time, it's not resolved quickly. And Councilman Fletcher and I were, in having that discussion, we're looking for some solution that would be incentive for people to keep up with their payments of water bills, hotel occupancy, and their reporting requirements.
Okay, unless we have any more discussion, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries 3-2 to approve the ordinance. Item 21, discussion and possible action regarding Tahoe purchases.
Mayor, we missed,
20.
Did I miss again?
The residency ordinance.
I'm getting tired, we've been up here a while. Item 20, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, amending an ordinance placing residency restrictions on certain sex offenders.
Council,
have a
this is
motion?
an amendment to the previously adopted ordinance with the revisions proposed by council.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve it.
I have a motion by Councilman Fletcher to
Second.
approve. I have a second by Councilman Raymaker. Do we have any discussion?
I did. I had a question on, because it deals primarily with school buses. Chief can help with this one. The vehicles that follow the school buses, are they the ones with the LPRs on them?
Not every time.
Could they be? I'm thinking, hey, it's my perfect chance to see if anybody's stalking any of the kids at a school bus stop.
It'd be hard to do because we only have 3 right now, and they work different shifts. So if they get
We've got one on first shift.
Right, but if that one's working a wreck or gets tied up on an assault call or something like that, then somebody else, it's not the same person every day that follows a bus.
But it could be. I mean, especially because we've got an LPR and then maybe one vehicle on that shift. I'm just saying it would be helpful.
I can look into it and see if we can kind of have the LPR guy promote that, the sergeant promote him to push him to follow the school bus around school bus times and just follow up on calls if they all get tied up. That's something we can look into.
All right.
So, Bill, I want to ask this. I'm a big fan of protecting our school kids and the school bus stops. As Conroe ISD adjusts their routes, they move the bus stops. It's pretty easy for an individual who would fit this to recognize a playground. You got typically a fenced area, you've got that space. I'm a little concerned about identifying school bus stops in terms of how is an offender, how is a person that would be under this ordinance supposed to be aware that a particular location is a school bus stop, and is it only when it's active, i.e. only when children are present there, or is this piece of grass on the corner a magic piece of grass all the time? That's really my only concern here is how is an individual who would fall into this supposed to know where school bus stops are unless they go into Conroe ISD and look up school bus stops, which would be a little like kind of.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you that, in my opinion, a school bus stop is when and where the school bus is stopping. It's not a piece of dirt. A bus stop is where the bus stops and picks up kids. a registered sex offender, I guess, could say, I wasn't aware, but when you see the bus stopped and 10 kids getting on or off,
So
it's pretty.
Well, keep in mind, this is a residency ordinance. It's not, they can't be at the bus stop. They just can't live within 1,000 feet of that bus stop. So it's not preventing them from being in the bus stop.
Right.
Okay, but a
But
bus
we talked about that with the park stop, right?
What's that?
The being
Yeah,
present, being present in the park.
And that's not enforceable. So we talked about where you prevent them from going to a park, you can't enforce it.
Right.
So, a premise, if you take 14.201.2 for the purposes of determining the minimum distance of separation, the requirement shall be measured by following a straight line from the property lot line of the permanent and/or temporary residence to the nearest property lot line of the child safety zone. School bus zone stops don't have property lines. A premise is a building, be it a business, a residence, a temporary residence, or a gathering place. I understand. I have a problem with the language. I mean, I don't have a problem with the sex offender ordinance at all, but I have a problem with just saying, adding or amending 14.201.1, the premises where children commonly gather. And there's the word premises again.
Yeah, let me say, the original statute that we talked about that was approved by the Texas Supreme Court, the particular wording was not challenged, but the court and overall approved the wording that says a premises where children commonly gather.
So a bus stop would fall
including.
into that. Okay.
So my reasoning is that if the Texas Supreme Court did not find offensive the term a premises where children commonly gather, which is a really generic thing, that the Supreme Court would not have an issue with more restrictive or more specifics, such as a playground, a bus stop.
Wherever the bus stops.
Right.
So
I totally understand your concern, and I don't disagree with your concern, yet if it's legal or permissible to define a child safety zone as a premises where children commonly gather, I can't imagine a more general, vague definition. And so my thought process is that this is just adding specifics.
So a premise is a house or a building together with its land and outbuildings occupied by a business or considered in an official content as a noun. And that's what we're talking about. Now, that's Webster's definition of it. Well, I'm just saying that, and then you go back to 14.002, which we're not amending, and it says, what I read, to the nearest property or lot line of the child safety zone. So that can't be determined. So all I'm saying, are we, in number 2, is it enforceable?
Do I personally think there are issues? I personally think there are issues. The Texas Supreme Court looked at the ordinance that we're copying and generally said this is allowable and enforceable. No one has come back yet and said to the Texas Supreme Court, I want to challenge 1,000 feet from where children commonly gather. Is that specific enough? Maybe the Supreme Court changes its, I won't say changes its mind, maybe it finds that that definition is too vague, I don't know.
Okay.
What we're dealing with right now are kind of, what we think the Supreme Court would approve.
So if I'm a sex offender and I'm on the registered list and I read this and I live in Shenandoah and I move over to Chateau Woods and then I still come back over to the Shenandoah Park, now I'm more than 1,000 feet from, and I'm just saying, Bill, I'm just.
No.
Now I'm.
Believe me, I find it somewhat incredible that we're allowed to pass a statute that prohibits a registered sex offender from living within 1,000 feet of this or that, and yet we cannot prohibit a registered sex offender from being inside our park. I find that very inconsistent, but apparently that right now is the law.
Well, I'm not trying to be.
No.
I'm not trying to be ugly with this, guys. I'm not. You know.
No.
Just have concerns about the language. I'll be quiet.
Duly noted. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Item 21, discussion and possible action regarding Tahoe purchases. Do I have a
Council, this is,
motion? Do
I'm
we
sorry.
have a presentation?
As your agenda report says, this is just quotes for the purchase of a new Tahoe along with emergency equipment. And you'll see the breakdown there if the chief has anything to add.
This is the one that we're trading the Caprice, the ex-detective car for, the equipment. So it knocked off $12,000 from the equipment.
What's the total price again? 'Cause I see the price in it.
$38,255.34.
Say that again?
$38,255.34.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman McLeod to approve. I have a second by Councilman Beavers. Do we have any discussion?
Are we planning to change how long we keep the vehicles?
We currently keep them 4 years.
Yes. We have some right now we're over because when we get this new one, we're getting rid of a 2012, and the next will be a 2013 we're getting rid of.
You know, I'd love to squeeze another year out of them.
We can look into it.
Not in this case. I'm okay with going ahead with this, but I want to stretch them out to 5 years.
We can look into trying to do that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 22, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2018 meeting.
Move they be approved as read.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Brought. I have a second by Councilman Fletcher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 23, ratify the accounts payable for December 2018. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Fletcher.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Beavers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 24, our second citizens forum. Nobody signed up to speak. Nobody?
Nobody.
Derek, you didn't want to come talk?
How about Hannah?
That'd be a good interview.
All right. We'll move on to item 25 then. City administrator updates.
I have a few quick updates. First of all, Chief Shaw reported, you'll see in his monthly report, that vehicle burglaries were down to 1 incident this past December compared to the previous year. So that's a great decrease. This is a 75% decrease. We had 4 motor vehicle burglaries in December 2017 and 26 burglaries in December of 2016. So this is a great trend that we hope continues. Secondly, the police department has been hosting some safety training that the hospital district is conducting for us, and the next one is the CPR AED training to get the employees recertified. On the 31st at 7 p.m. Here at City Hall, we have the hands-only CPR training, so that is the second in the series so far. On the Public Works side, our reforestation project is underway, and the trees are going in at both parks, so we've made a lot of good progress this week. Also, our joint meeting is next Wednesday, the 30th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. And that's going to be the joint meeting with Council, MDD, P&Z, where we're going to cover potential updates to the IDC, comprehensive plan, and sign ordinance.
So
with the
that's
goal.
at 7 p.m.?
Yes, sir. We talked about 6 p.m., but we are going to go ahead and do it at 7 p.m. We'll post the agenda this Friday. And finally, everybody knows Hannah with the Impact News. She's been with us for 2.5 years covering Shenandoah, and she has been promoted. So we wish her well. We're going to miss her. And Andrew Christman, who is also back there with Hannah, he's going to be taking over the Shenandoah coverage. So good luck to Hannah. We'll miss you. We hope you're not a stranger.
Hannah, we're sorry to see you leave. We're glad you're
I would say you have big shoes to fill, but that just kind of
Yeah, exactly.
sends an odd message.
Don't want to say little shoes either, so.
And that's all I've got.
We will miss you, Hannah.
Congratulations.
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 I had a question then within the reports then. Chief, on the LPRs, thanks for adding this to the report.
Let's move into council inquiry.
If you want to.
We'll move to item 26, which is council inquiry. We'll start with Councilman Rainmaker.
Okay. Thanks for putting in the section about the LPRs. I'm looking at what the ROI is for our investment here. And so an additional breakdown in your report, I'd like to see actionable hits from the stationary units versus mobile, because people have an expectation that those stationary units are protecting the residences. And so I'd like to be able to see that broken out separately. And Chief sat with me and Chris, and we reviewed the software, and I have some definite feature requests for the vendor and their product roadmap, specifically on reporting, integrations with other police systems, and improvement to the optical recognition. So those things are lacking in the software today, and I want to work with the vendor to be able to push those forward and when they're going to deliver it before we go further in the pilot. Because you jumped me into my council inquiry. I don't want anybody to take this personally, but accept it as a challenge. Y'all know I love process improvements. And I want to know what we're doing today to make Shenandoah PD more attractive to today's generation of recruits. Are we visiting academies? Are we sponsoring and mentoring candidates? Recruiting and job fairs, signing bonuses, incentives. When I Google Shenandoah police jobs, the first thing I see is Oak Ridge, Tomball, and Conroe. I think we can do better, and we should try to. I'd like to see us modernize our recruiting process, refresh it, and reboot it. And I'd like to see at least a draft of this by the end of February. I'd like to see recruiting metrics, candidate outreach on a monthly basis. I want to know what's working, and I want to know what doesn't, so we know where to focus. So again, it's all with the goal of continuous improvement. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Councilman Fletcher?
I actually don't have anything this week. I know, I'm feeling under the weather, so
Should we call an ambulance?
call 411.
Yeah. Councilman Beard?
I'm really happy to see the trees getting planted, so thank y'all for that. And I suspect that the reduction in vehicle burglaries is because MDD is funding holiday patrol. It's hard to pinpoint that, but I think that funding really helps.
Sure, it's
But I think you could take credit right there.
I don't need to take credit. I'm happy that MDD is funding it. That's all I have.
Is that it? Councilman Brock?
I just want to announce to council and everyone else that I've signed up to.
All right.
And I would like to, went to the Stop the Bleed thing that police department had the other night. And the attendance was good, but I think it was sparingly. And in our talks, several of the residents came to me and said that there was no signs at the streets that these events took place. Because a lot of people don't use Facebook or whatever. So I'd like to, Kathy, possibly put this on agenda to talk about buying these signs for the police events. I don't know how we'll do it and not have a date on it, but maybe a place where we could put a secondary sign with a date or something. And then coffee with cops as well. I think that would be good if we had that. So I'd like to put that, if somebody else would second the motion.
Unless council feels otherwise, this should be within my authority, and we can order these signs if you're comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
I would be.
Are you
I
okay
mean,
with that?
I had a scheduling conflict, but yeah, I was interested in seeing that. So.
And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman McLeod?
No, I'm good tonight. Got it done. We do need a resolution for closing the media and make sure that's on the next agenda, so you get going on that. Other than that, I'm good.
Did we figure out what our anomaly was?
No, I
No.
put, so the comptroller is very slow to respond back.
Okay.
I put in
MDD difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For those of you that noticed, we had an increase in MDD tax, but we had a decrease in sales tax.
I also have my sales tax assurance team looking into it as well, so
Okay.
hopefully we'll hear something.
Good news is we're still up year over year, even if that decrease is realized to be correct. So, you know me, I'm kind of a numbers guy. I like to see us going in the right direction. I would like to see us schedule a town hall meeting for the spring. I'm thinking probably somewhere around April, March is spring break. There's 2 weeks in flux there, depending upon what school people's kids go to. So I think April is probably a better option for a town hall. And I think we have some relevant topics to talk about, but we certainly can come up with some more between now and then. And that's it for me, unless anybody's got anything else. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. We're going to miss you, Hannah. Yeah, welcome aboard, Andrew. Welcome aboard. That'd be easy to remember. That's my third son's name. So,
Your fourth son.
appreciate everybody coming. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 9:12.
Executive session.
Oh, adjourn the regular session. I'm sorry, at 9:12.
Break too.
Move into executive session for matters regarding streetlights, solar streetlights.